I am a professor and an artist and a researcher in Seogang University in the Art and Technology Department in Seoul, Korea. I create media art and also I research on the aesthetics and the how technology can be used in art domain. I think metaverse is a really broad term. It includes VR and SNS. Some people also include like the how payment can be processed in the metaverse. So it's actually a broad term encompassing many domains related to the virtual and commerce and social networks. Um, to me, what metaverse means is that VR, like how VR is being really closely integrated within our society and also the industry. So I think it's not really a new thing. Like VR has been there for a long time, but it was only for, I think, researchers or for the tech geeks. But the metaverse means that now it's really come out to the general public. And now the public are being really ready and being open to accept the virtual world to be part of our society. Honestly, I feel like metaverse to me is nothing so different from the virtual world research. Like it's the
Mm.
research, the ongoing research hasn't changed so much, I think, but the term metaverse helped a lot to get a lot of funding, government funding. So, like, I think people are doing nothing different from virtual world VR research, but by using the metaverse keyword, they get more opportunities. So, why not just use it to get a lot of support from the government? Um, People think virtual world or VR is old, but the metaverse is something new and more trendy. So even if it's basically the same thing, people are very sensitive towards those terms or trends. So I think adding metaverse has a little bit more meaning in terms of applicable social network or um, industry relevant applications. So yeah, just a little bit more twist on that, I think, is on the term metaverse. Actually, it influenced me a lot. Like I was interested in VR. However, before I was very skeptical that it'll be so widely used. So although I was interested in VR as an artistic medium or concept, I never thought it will be widely used. So I never really thought about using it as an artistic medium. Because it's so exclusive, I thought. But within the metaverse boom, I think the price really dropped. So and it got really popular within even in the museum setting. So it opened up more widely towards using VR as an artistic medium. And also, I think it was very fast. The boom was very fast, and then the drop was also even faster. But I don't think that the importance of metaverse has disappeared, but it dropped because we all now are ready to use it. Like everybody purchased, not everybody, but museums have already purchased the VR devices. People have already experienced VR at least once. So I think people are more experienced and ready. So maybe there is no more need to emphasize metaverse as a new thing. So that's probably why I think some interest dropped, but it doesn't mean that it disappeared. It's just there and people are more used to it. People do not pay so much attention to it because they're used to it and they're ready. But I don't think the meaning dropped or it's disappearing or something. I think it's kind of overlapping concept, but when people say about XR, it's usually based on the real world presentation. I think when people say about XR, it's usually about how in the real world experience we can integrate with the virtual screens or augmented screens. When people talk about metaverse, I think it's the opposite way, based on the virtual connection or virtual world, how we can integrate it with the real world commerce or real world relationships. So it's kind of basically overlapping, but from a different starting point, I think. I've been working on several projects in a row, and one of the project that Sojong has is going to talk to me, the Signal Journey, is a sorry, is a VR to play a VR game. It's about intimacy and relationship. It started from my question about, can there be intimacy in a virtual experience in the virtual world? So I think the starting point is starting from virtual relationship. My question is, can there be intimacy or close relationship in the virtual experience? Actually, my viewpoint is actually no. So I'm actually very critical about just virtual relationship. I think real world, it cannot really replace real world relationship and emotion. So in the project Signal Journey, I try to represent or share the metaphors of real world experiences and somehow remind that in the virtual world. Another project that I'm working is about Yongsan Park. Yongsan Park is a real park in South Korea. It's a social how to use Yongsan Park is a kind of a social issue. It's a cultural heritage, but uh it's not being shared to the general public. So uh, it's an ongoing debate about how to utilize Yongsan Park in the future. So it's a real world issue, and I try to bring that debate and discussion within the virtual world, in the virtual image as a playground to discuss about the possibilities of the usages of the Yongsan Park. So those are the two projects that deals with the real world problem or maybe deals with the virtual connection, but uh, express my ideas through a metaphors from the real world. Yeah. So I think in the real world relationship, it's actually relationship is built up in a long time. It's you cannot really build up relationship in a shorter, like just one side. However, within this VR project, I think the experience is rather shorter, like 10 minutes. And metaphorically, I try to kind of deliver the relationship in a 10-minute experience. So it's much more shorter and more condensed. And also, I think in the real world experience, when relationship encounters difficulty, it's very stressful. But I think in this Signal Journey game, those challenges or difficulty are also kind of a fun experience within this game. So uh like I think you can I think you can look at the relationship from a more um different perspective, in a more kind of a longer, like it's in the longer, like if you instead of being so immersed in the real world experience within this game, you have a sort of broader sense to be able to think about um the experience. After the Signal Journey game, you are able to see the routes or your passages through in a map. So I think that's also an interesting way of seeing your relationship. You never are able to see your passage of life or your passage of experience, but in a game, although it's a footsteps, it metaphorically it enables you to see and look back on your experiences. So I think in a game it adds a playful um space to simulate or experience in a different way. It's a it's a two-player VR game, so two VR players can, if they have any internet connection, they can play the game. And the both it's kind of like hide and seek where you cannot see where the other player is in the virtual world and you have to find where they are and get closer to them, relying on audio and visual signals. And the signals are the flowers you're flying. So in on the ground there are flowers. You can pick up a flower and fly, and the direction of the flower flying indicates where your partner is located. And as you get closer to each other, like um the color of the virtual world gets uh more brighter, and the sound of the virtual experience gets more enriched. When your partner flies you a flower, you can hear their melody, and that is an indicator that to indicate the presence of the other corresponding player. And yeah, so when you meet, you can finally able to see the other as a kind of virtual blob like a colored cloud. So we we intentionally minimize the visual elements and intentionally removed intentionally not show the where the other player is until you really get closer. So the intention was for the players to focus on and have interest and curiosity on where are the other players, what are the signals. So I thought that by hiding those, like when you cover your eyes, you start to pay more attention on the sounds or smells and other senses. So in a similar way, I try to remove uh, more clear information about where the other player is, but send more metaphorical signifiers so that you start to pay more attention to where the other player is and have more curiosity on it. I think this is a really starting point for me to explore how intimacy or relationship can be translated into audio and visual multisensory experiences. I think we were not fully able to explore more diverse multisensory experiences. And I think the sensory experiences are really shallow at this point. I think there is possibility to make it more rich in haptic or even more complicated audio visual signals to indicate maybe the temperatures of the other player or maybe the heartbeat of the other player. Or I think there are more ways to enrich the sensory experiences to share intimacy, but the current version is more like a very, very, very simple starting point. So I think um, technically there is a lot more space to do, but we did not have enough time or the technology to explore those haptic domains. So I think that is one thing that maybe could be improved. Another challenge that I think we had was um we actually demoed this game in SIGGRAPH Asia in Tokyo uh 2 weeks ago. And in the first time people play, they were very confused about how to play this game. And they were very confused in how to interpret the metaphors or the signifiers we created because it was a new type of experience or interaction for them. So that was also challenging. Like for us or for the people who made this game, it's very clear to us. We have the very we we thought that it's a very clear instruction or metaphor, but people needed a lot of description or explanation about it for the people who first played this game. So I think um, it was a little confusing for the people. So I think we need to improve those usability to reduce confusion, or maybe within the game, there needs to be more clear guidance or explanation about what these metaphor means or what this audio signifies or something like that. When I was creating this game, my intention, like I only thought about people would play, like people who don't know each other would play this game, and then they get closer or they get more curiosity towards each other. That was my initial um probably goal of this game or starting point. But what I noticed was that people who already knew each other, people who are already close friends, enjoyed playing this game more than people who don't know each other. So even people who already know each other, when they play this game, even though they had a lot of difficulty finding each other, they had a lot of confusion, and there were many challenges finding each other, obstacles. Although all that difficulty, they after all they really enjoyed playing this game, and they wanted to keep the routes of their past pathways. They kind of, I think it's similar to how you take uh sticker photos, instant photos with your friends, or Polaroid photos with their friends. I think it somehow provided them with the experience that both of them could remember or keep as a joyful experience for them. So that was a unexpected usage of this game. I think virtual reality is a safe place to open up things in a debate or discussion. So sometimes in the real world experience, it's so sensitive that you don't want to talk about it, or it's very um, difficult. But I think virtual space provides an alternate uh, space to to have a critical dialogue about things in the real world, problems or things. The starting there, yeah, that's very ironically, although I work on VR, I didn't really enjoy VR chat or things like that. Actually, the starting point was um during the COVID-19 period, there were a lot of projects in Korea in museum or government fundings to create metaverse projects. There were many projects about connection, and so I started wondering, how can we really build up a more intimate relationship? And although although maybe it is more challenging or difficult, maybe I think intimacy can be built up through codependency in some ways. So that's the starting point that I started the idea about creating a game that each other are codependent to each other, so that then maybe they would have to force to collaborate with each other. I through VR or metaverse, I want to promote people to have more critical thinking about the real world experience they're having. Or I want VR to be a place for thought changes. Yeah, as you mentioned, like reflexive VR kind of thing, where through VR experience, I want people to have a perspective shift or change their thoughts or promote critical thinking. And maybe people, like in the real world, you don't pay attention to certain issues, but in VR provides a more focused experience. So yeah, my aspiration towards VR is to open up a new dialogue about the issues or things that were not uh talked about in the real world. I don't I don't think VR or metaverse would replace the real world, but it's to enrich the real world experiences. And I feel like to me, when I create VR projects, I always think about how can I translate the richness of the real world experience into virtual world, and how can virtual experience can in a more condensed way provide that to the viewers. So yeah, I think it can be a very powerful medium for perspective shifts or having a new thought. So it can be a thought-provoking tool in a artistic way.